guys, welcome back to We Watched a Movie. I am Mike, and this is a Terrifier 3 spoiler review. I'm going to throw a lot of ideas at you guys, some thoughts. We're going to talk about the gore, the deaths. Don't watch this if you haven't seen the movie for sure. Check it out because it's worth it. I gave the movie an 8.5. I enjoyed it a lot. Not quite as much as Terrifier 2, but there's a specific reason why, which we'll talk about here. But I'm going to give you guys lots of ideas and theories and whatnot, but the fun part is hearing what you guys have to say about it. So we're still going to do a spoiler stream. We'll probably do that on Monday night, so make sure you have notifications clicked on so that you know when we go live, because I want to hear your all's thoughts and how you reacted to certain things and what your ideas of where this franchise is going are. It's funnest when we can do this together. But to get some of these ideas off my chest, to talk about this movie, because it's one of those movies you watch and you just want to talk about for sure, let's talk about it. Let's get right into it. They did not push the lore forward nearly as much as I thought they were. And I actually think that the Rotten Tomatoes score for this is going to go down. I'm filming this on Thursday. It'll probably be out Saturday or Sunday or whatever. But I have a theory, not because it deserves to, but because of expectation. I think that people are going to watch this and there's going to be part of the demographic that is going to maybe be disappointed that they didn't explain certain things, that they didn't unveil the lore of art and things like that. If you look back at the first Terrifier movie, and I keep seeing people come up and say, oh, this franchise is all gore and no story. And I'm like, tell me you haven't seen Terrifier 2 without telling me that you haven't seen Terrifier 2. Because yes, in the first movie, it was very simple. It was gnarly. It was grindhouse, all that stuff. But in the second movie, the reason it works and the reason it became a franchise, it was that movie's Dark Knight. I mean, it added lore and story and mythos and all this stuff and questions. And it just, this has as much story as already in 3.25 movies, has already as much mythos and story as like 99% of slashers. All right, 97, fuck your face. But it's got tons of story in it. And I like personally that they're not answering all of it like that real quick. One of the best parts about Michael Myers that they keep fucking with is trying to over-explain. Show his face some more. Have him take off his mask. Do a little dingy dance. No! Keep Michael Myers as supernatural, as questionable as possible. Give us just a tip. Just the tip, Steven, of information about him. Keep it, mythical. Keep it mysterious. Make us ask questions. Don't give us nothing, but just give us the tip. Ouch, ouch, you're on my hair. So in this movie that has, I believe, I counted them up, 21 kills in it. When the thing starts out, and I love what they did with the marketing here. I think that this was smart. I don't know if it was on purpose or what, but you keep hearing that, oh, a bunch of people threw up, passed out, left during the opening scene of the movie. So when I'm watching the movie, I'm thinking the opening's where it's going to happen. And of course, we saw in the trailer the little girl, Art shows up. Oh my God, he's going to tear this kid apart. This is what people are upset about. Here we go. And Art shows up and I'm a little disappointed because I wanted to see Art kill Santa Claus. And we do technically, but this franchise is so weird. You could have actually had him kill the real Santa Claus and just been fucking wild and crazy kids with it. I don't know. Maybe it's better that they didn't do that, to be honest with you. But yeah, the first death we get is this family of 4 and they all get it. The first one to go is the little boy, and it's off screen. So he does kill a kid in the movie, and you hear the knife chomping down, but it's off screen, thankfully. And then we go in, and he kills the dad, who looks sort of like Winter Soldier in a weird way. But it's an axe kill, and it's great. It goes in line with some of the other amazing gore special effects they did in Terrifier 2, because he just goes into that dude's neck. And, like, it's flipping and flopping and doing that thing. And it was gross. And then the mom, who was a really good actress, you could expect her to stay around the whole film for sure. He chases her down. She sees that her kid, you do see the aftermath of what Art did to this kid. And his intestines are over here. His leg is over there. His head is over there. He's all over the fucking room. That was an impression of Mark from SLC Punk. That's an awesome movie. You should watch it. Think, you fool. But she chases the mom downstairs, kills her with an axe. Nasty, nasty, nasty scene. Axe in the stomach, chops off her arms, chops off her head. And then eventually finds the little girl in the cabinet and then smiles at her and grabs the axe, and we assume that he does kill her. But they didn't force us to watch the children be tortured and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, par for the course, here we go. Right in the middle, get in the mix. I like what we're doing here. I didn't want to watch kids be tortured. Like, kids die in horror movies, I get it. I'm not precious about it, but I didn't want to see kids be tortured. So I'm happy about that. Anywho, you guys like this shirt, by the way? I like it a lot. We will be at Scarefest next week Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we have a booth there, so come say hello to us, and we'll have mugs, and we'll have tote bags, and we'll have t-shirts for sale. It's the first time we're ever selling our merch there, so come say hi to us at Scarefest. Take a picture, autograph pictures, that shit's free, of course. What? Who are we gonna fucking... Yeah, that's gonna be $9 in a Twix, because I'm a YouTuber. No, we're not gonna charge for shit like that, but obviously, just, you know, we'll have these. But I was surprised at the opening scene. I was like, that was not that gnarly. Okay. I was expecting from them saying, oh, it was the opening scene, everybody left, that it was going to get really, really nasty. Really nasty. And it was nasty, but it wasn't like, I'm getting sick to my stomach nasty. So I'm thinking, oh shit, was that it? Am I? Okay. Because whenever you go into one of these movies, part of the fun is being like, I don't know. Am I going to be able to handle it? Is it going to be too much for me? Am I going to throw up in public? That's not something I should look forward to. And I hope I don't, but that's kind of the thing. And I get through that, and I'm like, okay, here we go. So then we pick up from the last movie. We go 5 years back in time, and we see that Art the Clown in his headless body stands up, and he kills a cop. It's just a whatever kill. It's just weird that a headless Art is killing someone, so that's cool. And then we go back, and we see Jericho going in the cell and seeing that Katrina, what the fuck is her name? That Vicki... where we left off the end after she's birthed Art's head, and his head is stuck on this nasty fucking goopy goo thing, and he's eating the other guard's face while she sits there, and they both end up killing Jericho. He died way quicker than I thought he was going to. That was kind of a bummer because I kind of liked what he was doing when he was on screen. Didn't do a whole lot, but Chris Jericho seems like he could be a good actor. It just kind of fits. Anyways, they kill him in a gnarly way. Art's, it's funny because he looks over the corner and Art's headless body's like, hi, how's it going, Himmel? And then they both kill him by ripping his face off, ripping his throat off. It's a gnarly scene. It's a great death scene. It's cool. So with the cop and Jericho, we have our 5th and 6th deaths. I'm not counting the lady because I think she was dead at the end of the first movie. So here we go. Onward, forward. One question I have is when Art and Vicki, they're a team now. They're buddy-buddy, and his little face was sitting there eating the ground. It's gross. But after he, by the way, puts on the security guard's head and rides the bus to get there, which I just thought was a stroke of genius. That shit's hilarious and fucked up. But they go back to, like, the Hideout House, right? They walk in there. She talks to herself in the mirror, and she's like, nobody's going to fuck you anymore, Vicki. And then she gets in a tub, and she cuts her wrists and bleeds out. And he sits in a chair and stares out his half Amityville, half the Crow window or whatever. And 5 years pass. And I'm like, this is a new little chunk of lore or whatever. Like, why did they just sit there for 5 years? Why specifically was it 5 years? It's very Michael Myers staring out the window. Gosh, I wish my dog would stop snoring. Hella, can you wake up? You're being rude. Look at her, being rude. You're being rude. But yeah, it's very Michael Myers staring out of the window for 11 years or whatever. And I dig it, but I also have questions. Why are we doing this? So these two cleaner dudes show up and they get killed. And this is the scene where I go, oh, this is the big scene that made David Howard Thornton sick. Because at this point, the bathtub is filled up and it's full of shit and everything else. And it's super gross. She wakes up. She takes the shard of the mirror, kills the dude with it. But here's where it gets really fucking fruity, man. Art is killing this dude, and he takes the box cutter and cuts his head, and then rips the skin off slowly like a potato skin, and rips it off of the skull. And it's nasty already in itself. But here's the fucking kicker to the scene, is that while he's doing that, fucking Vicki is over here with the shard of glass in the diddling herself and getting in there, getting in the mix. There's blood coming out all over the floor, and she's just like, ha ha, wee! It's a fucking outdoor water park. It was disgusting in all the right ways. I don't know. It's one of those, you're like, ha ha! All you can do is laugh, slink away from the screen, feel terrible about yourself for what you're taking part in, and goddamn, that was a classic Terrifier moment right there. And then Art looks at her and goes, like, how dare you? Because she finishes. Yes, she does. Another great kill scene that happens, and you're thinking, okay, that must be it. That must be as gross as it gets. No, says I, there's so much more. Art goes to a bar at one point, and this is where the Christmas atmosphere really kicks in. He's at a bar, and there's a Santa Claus guy. And this Santa Claus reminds me sort of like Kevin Nash a little bit, but also sort of Christopher Nelson. Academy Award winning Christopher Nelson, who we've had on the show several times, reminds me of him. Just a really likable, just big dude. One of them's Clint Howard, which was an awesome cameo. The Ice Cream Man himself. That was cool as hell to see. And Art starts fucking around with him. He pisses on the Santa Claus leg, which is super gross. And their reactions are just perfect. I gotta give this franchise credit where it's due. A lot of these slasher movies, and they used to do this really bad back in the 80s and the 90s too, and then 2000s even, they give all the ancillary characters around like really shitty personalities to where you like can't wait to see them die. But the other side to that is like you're not entertained when they're on screen. You're like, God, I hate this guy. I can't wait till he's fucking dead. But you do have to sit through them and their personalities while they're alive. The thing that Terrifier does so well, and I think movies are getting smarter about in general, is that these characters are likable. So you care when they die. You don't want them to die, but they're also entertaining. And I thought Terrifier 2, even though you had morally questionable characters, I loved her friends, the two friends that Art killed. I thought they were really fun on screen. And the same here too, with the couple of asshole characters who are about to die in the shower. And these two guys, or these few dudes, you like everybody. Everybody has an entertaining personality, which I think is really underrated when it comes to this movie. But anyways, he fucks their world up. He pulls out a gun and just shoots two of them point blank, which was weird to see Art do that. It was just like a quick, it's just like, just to like throw off cadence, you know, throw off your expectations. But the Santa Claus dude gets it the worst. And he keeps calling him Clowny, which is hilarious. But I love the idea that you see Art back at his home base and he's testing his kills on these rats. He's like a scientist basically. And he finds this liquid nitrogen and he's freezing the rats and killing them and feeding them to each other and doing all sorts of fucked up shit to them. But that's where he pulls out the liquid nitrogen and he's got Santa Claus tied to a chair and it's just, holy fuck, it's nasty. He freezes him. He busts him up in little bits at a time. And then finally this motherfucker he freezes his face and then rips his beard off. The whole skin is like dangling in front of his face. And then takes a snowman nose and sticks it in the guy. The guy's eyes are still open. He can still feel and sticks the thing. Just what a great kill. I mean, just goddamn inventive. It's a cherry on top type of kill. Like, did that whole scene have any purpose in the plot? No, but it's a Terrifier movie and they gave us that little bit extra. What's the difference between extraordinary and ordinary? Just that little bit extra. What movie is that from? I gotta stop quoting the same shit in every review. Anyways, it's gross. It fucked me up a lot. We're up to 11 kills, and then you have the mall scene that takes place where we all wonder what was going to happen. You see Art replacing a Santa Claus, kid sitting on his lap. Ah, shit, how fucked up is this about to get? Am I going to actually have to put myself on a list just for watching this fucking movie? And it does and it doesn't. They go there, but they do a really good job of not being too egregious about it and not being tacky. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion, like if you're going to do it, because you got to say, hey, we'll fucking do anything. We don't care. Just don't be tacky about it. And they have a bunch of kids come up and Art's giving all these kids presents and there's a bomb in them. And then one kid's like, yeah, I wonder what he got me, weird clown dude. Dance, funny man, dance. And then he opens the box. The mall blows up. At least that section of it blows up. And Art's like, and you find out later on the news that 5 people died there. While all this stuff's going on, in the background, we are reintroduced to Sienna, and Lauren LeVere is awesome again, and so is Jonathan, and they're both dealing with PTSD in a bunch of, in my opinion, really realistic ways. Like, she's really fucked up from it. She's seeing her dead friend at dinner, and she's staying with her aunt and her husband, and they have this little girl who's just, like, connected to her and just, like, loves her, and she's pretty much finding new happiness by being there for this little girl or whatever, and this new family, and she's trying to get through it. She's out of the hospital. She's trying to put her shit together. Meanwhile, Jonathan's off at college, and they're trying to figure stuff out. There's a couple flashback scenes that goes back to when Sienna's dad drew her character for her, the costume that he gave her, and it shows him talking to her about it, and her saying, "You promised you'd draw me this," and he's like, "No, she could kill 10 of my superheroes. She's a super badass, and she's a force for good, and all this." But when he goes to hand it to her, his face gets super red and he like seizes up and like there's redness behind the door that opens up and she's like, "Let go," and he screams, and then finally he lets it go. And that's kind of, for the most part, all they give us about whatever's going on with that situation. They hinted at it in part 2. It has something to do with the dad. and there's definitely some holy shit going on here, as far as that stuff goes, because while he's talking to her and explaining to her who she is or whatever, and this moment's happening, they pan back to Terrifier 2, where we see that dude on his knees, that gnarly looking dude, pounding the weapons and has the shield and whatnot there. And then you see this like Mary Magdalene, like, I don't know, Bible-ish character standing there holding his leash and like jerks the leash, and it's creepy and cool looking how they did that. The art and all that was really neat there, I thought. But it definitely ties into a holy situation, good, evil, whatever. And then there's a note that Jonathan has written to her, and she's explaining to him, she's like, you wrote me this. I know you're trying to forget and pretend this isn't going on, but I think he's back. Something's going on. We need to figure it out. And the note is basically explaining that the demon wants to come, and I'm paraphrasing here, of course, the demon wants to come into this world, but to do so, it has to inhabit somebody else, specifically someone bad, like a serial killer or someone like that. And you are the good, you're the opposite of it. You're the only thing stopping it from happening. So there's a whole demonic possession sort of deal happening there. And I'm probably explaining it really poorly, but if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. So, and I have theories about that too. At first I thought the little girl, because Art ends up killing her parents, and the movie, part of the reason it wasn't as fun as the second one is because I felt so terrible for this little girl and what she had to watch happen. It just, when you're having fun watching this batshit crazy movie, and you're like, man, this stuff's wild, and then you have to think about that little girl watching her mom have her throat cut while rats are shoved into it with that thing. It was the only kill I didn't like. And not because I'm like, oh, that's so mean. I get it. It's a Terrifier movie. But I just thought that kill was a little bit over the top. It was just not in grossness, just in too much thought into it. It felt like a Saw kill. Like he has to put the vase into her, then he puts the rats into it, and then he has to cut her throat so you see the nasty rats come out. And it was the first time I felt like, all right, this Connect set is getting too hard to put together. I'm going to go back to Legos, you know? But anyways, the little girl has to see that, and they make a point of you seeing her see that. The little girl's also the only one that survives, because when Sienna cuts off Vicky's head, the blood melts the floor, and the little girl goes down there, and they have that cliffhanger scene where she grabs and that was gross, by the way, but the little girl still falls through. But Sienna's like, I'll find you, assuming she's still alive. In my head, I went directly to, oh my God, that little girl they're going to use that little girl, because they were trying to use Sienna by saying, hey, look, we killed this person, let go and let me in. They were trying to do whatever that letter was talking about. But now she's away from this little girl. This little girl's wherever she is after the cliffhanger scene, and they're going to use her. And then I thought, the little girl is the little girl from the second one. That's who that is. It was that little girl, and they let a demon take her over. But again, that doesn't make sense because that was in the past tense. That was in the past movie. But I was sure about it for a second, and I was like, that makes no sense, stupid idiot. And I was like, oh, fuck. I'm glad I didn't put that on camera and say it and then not edit it. But I still think that maybe that there's something there. It makes too much sense, right? And if you watch the movie, they make a point of showing us see that little girl kind of go crazy and watch what's happening to her mom. So whether she is that little girl and there's a time travel situation fucked up, who knows in this franchise what could happen. That little girl's definitely going to obviously be a main character going forward. And I think a lot of people wanted a lot of these questions answered rather than more questions asked. Again, I think it's fun. I do think this is more of an extension of Terrifier 2 than it is a really pushing the needle forward movie, but I think it's a really great extension of Terrifier 2. And you also have the Christmas aspect, which they did such a good job of, and it's definitely the grossest one, the goriest one. Speaking of which, finally we get to what is the goriest kill, and it's the shower scene. And again, I like these two characters. They're kind of that dude, Mason McCarty, Cole, the blonde dude with the crazy hair. He even had like a stewish robe on. These college kids, I like them, and she's the podcast girl or whatever. Even though she's morally reprehensible, like they're still fun characters. You know what I mean? So, but you know they're gonna die. And this is a shower scene. The trailers mess with us. It made me think it was Sienna in the shower, but it's actually this girl and him, and they're fucking in the shower or whatever. And pretty simple, man. He takes the chainsaw, but the way he does it, dude, he gets his leg, and then when he tries to get out, this is probably the grossest part of the film to me, just the way it worked. It was like one of those fucked up, nasty football injuries with a bone sticking out. He goes to try to escape, but his leg's cut up. So you see the knee, below the knee, slip on the shower linoleum, and like the leg does this weird like gloppy gloop thing. It reminded me of the Achilles scene in Hostel. Just absolutely fucking chicken leg gross. Disgusting as fuck. But also really gross is when he kills her, he slashes her right across the mid-boob. Mid-nip, like right in there. Not so much here or here, but fucking all of it. And just you see her tits get ripped in half, which is super nasty. But then when he gets him on the ground, that's when it gets nastier. Because you know he's going to do it. And this is funny because it's kind of his answer to the Vagisaw kill from Terrifier 1. It's like, no, it's not a women thing. I'm now going to Vagisaw this dude's ball sack and his crack. He sticks it in his crack, first off, the chainsaw, and it's rumbling and bumbling and the ripping and the tearing. But then you see it really up close for a really long time. He goes right mid-dick balls, taint area, red team go, and just rips the dude in half over and over and over again. And it's fucking sick. It's so sick. And you're like, giblets. One of my windows is down. I hope that like the Amazon guys out there are like, oh, this sounds like a nice Bible study. I think I'll partake. Another cameo, by the way, that happens is Tom Savini shows up and he's talking about the kids getting killed. I think Tom Savini's a good actor. I felt that way since Dusk Till Dawn when his little dick gun popped out. I like watching Tom Savini act, so that was cool. So finally, Art catches up with Sienna at the end scene of the movie, and he has killed the dad. He's placed his head on a Christmas tree. It's an off-screen death. And we talked about how he kills the mom. And allegedly, they kill Jonathan. I'm questionable about this because it doesn't happen on screen. Eventually, Vicki shows this cage skull with like the meat still on it or whatever, and they try to act like it's the little girl. Thankfully, it's not. But then they turn to Sienna, who's tied up, and they're like, no, this is Jonathan. And they're clearly trying to get her to lose it so that they can inhabit her or do whatever their plan is. But Jonathan dying off screen like that seems fishy to me. I'm not sure if I trust it. I think something's rotten in Denmark, Greg, and I think he may pop up again. It's going to pop up in the final reel somewhere, eyes gouged out. But I don't really trust what they did there. So I think he may still be alive, or it could be something even worse. But allegedly he's dead, and that brings the count to fucking 21. I'm not trying to do dead meat or anything. I was interested in how many death scenes actually happened in this, and 21 people, if I'm not missing anyone, died. Because again, they said 5 people died at the mall and other people were injured. So just an interesting stat. I don't know how many people died in Terrifier 2, but 21 people do die in this film. Something interesting to add to the lore of it as well is that Sienna clearly regenerates here. After the sword in the cliffhanger scene, oh god, I'm doing it again. When she has the knife situation happen, her hands are ripped open and you can see the fat and all that. It's really gross. And but they healed instantly. So now we know Sienna is for sure somewhat... Not that we did not know that after the last movie, but she's definitely regenerating at this point, which made me happy because there was a little plot hole going on there when she's tied up and she's going to get her special sword. They bang her hands up so much. And then at that whole fight scene takes place. It was a really good fight scene, I thought. She's fighting with the sword. He has the chainsaw. I thought it was a really well done fight scene between her and Art for sure. But I was like, there's no way she's doing that with her hands right now. Right? Because her hands are supposed to be all fucked up. But I guess that's how she was regenerating or whatever. So that's how they worked that out. But yeah, so the little girl's gone in the hole. Sienna's like, I'm going to find you. And then Art just escapes and goes. Vicky's had her head cut off and melted the floor into hell or wherever the hell that's going. And then Art just goes down to the bus stop because he had his throat slit and he's been stabbed in the stomach with her sword. He gets on a bus. And there we go. That's Terrifier 3. So I do think a lot of people, to just have it end with another battle between them where Art gets away, almost leaving us pretty much where we were at the end of the last film. I think some people may be like, oh, I wanted more explanation. I wanted, this or that. But I think when you add the Christmas aspect to it and you add it's getting even gorier than it's gotten before, and they gave us a little bit of lore and stuff like that and a little bit of new stuff and asked more questions, I feel like they did a great job personally. But I do understand that. I keep telling people, like, don't expect too much explanation of stuff. And I kind of like it that way. You got to give us a little bit here and there, and I think the movie did that. So I really enjoyed it. That's everything I can think of that happened. So I'm not sure, again, very confused about exactly what's going on, where Art came from, but I know it has something to do with some biblical demonic type shit mixed in that. The little girl's going to come into play. I think that there's some way that they could possibly tie her and the little girl from the last movie together. I don't know for sure. Is Vicki gone for sure? Is Jonathan gone? I don't know. Let's talk about all of this in the spoiler stream on Monday night. Don't forget to have those notifications turned on. And I love your all's fucking faces. We will talk soon.
Here comes that white-faced fucker, an asshole like no other. He's a big old piece of shit. Wants to stab your sister's tits cause he's a white-faced fucker. Loomis can't recover. Dr. Challenge drunk again, sleeping with your sister's friends.
Do you want to know about the darkness?
I said, God damn.
God damn you, Michael!
I said, God damn.
A lot of people don't know the darkness that goes inside their hearts.
I said, God damn.
God damn you, Michael! What are you gonna do on October 31st?